Alright, so I have here is a picture of Wally, and what I have done is I set it up so when I click on Wally, Wally actually disappears and appears a picture of Eva instead. And I let go, and you see Wally reappear. So again, I click down, I see Eva, I click away, and I see Wally. And I chose to use the clicking pseudo class instead of hover. Well, let me show you what hover does real quick. I have it here for Wally, hover, refresh, and we get that weird back and forth action and kind of weird. So I'm sticking with active, and that is when the button is clicked and held down, that's when the pseudo class applies its style. And the only style I have in that pseudo class is visibility hidden. And again, all that does, it makes Wally disappear, but it leaves the space on the web page. So all the other elements don't have to readjust. Alright, so that's how I get Wally to disappear. How did I get them to stack on top of each other? Let's go down to the HTML first of all. So this is the HTML, and what I've done is I made one div, and in this one div I put two separate divs. In each one of these divs I put in one of the pictures. In the first div I gave it an ID Eva, and I don't think I used it, so that doesn't matter. And then I put Eva's image source in this div here. In the second div I gave it an ID Wally E1 or Wally1, and I actually did use that, so I'll come back to that later. And I put Wally's image in this div here. These two divs are in a bigger div, which I ID'd pick div. So this one, this ID pick div, and this ID Wally1 is important, or are important. So let's go back up to the style. So ID pick div, first of all I gave it a border, and what that does, it puts the border around that div section. Position relative, I'll come back to that because that's related to Wally1. Top 0, left 0. So now, first of all, let's tackle this issue here, and that's he's overflowing this div section because Wally's height is greater than the height of this div. So there are a couple ways you can tackle this issue. You can give this div a height greater than the height of Wally's image. So if I comment this back in, I give it a height of 200 pixels. Okay, it goes up. I need a little more, so 300. Okay, still doesn't fit, so let's go with 350. That's about right. So the issue with that is you're having to guess and check. So another thing you can do is comment this out. And when I change something, I always want to check to see how it affects my web page. So I'm going to comment this back in, and that's overflow auto, and I'll show you what that does. So that didn't actually do anything, so what I had to do was go back. I had to put the height back in, but I gave it a height auto as well. So what that did, with the two combined here, is it created this scroll bar here, so that way I can scroll vertically up and down on Wally's image. And as you can see, the pseudo class active still works. If I use autoflow scroll, that's going to give me both the vertical and horizontal bars even if I don't need them. If I leave it at auto, it's only going to give me the scroll bars that I need, and that in this case is the vertical one. So how do I get these two to stack on top of each other? So that has to do with the big pick div, and it has to do with Wally, the image I have on top. So first of all, to get them on top, I gave it a z index of 1. that puts it on top because 1 is the next number after 0. 0 is pretty much every other element on the web page. So if I have a z-index higher than 0, it's going to appear on top. Now, this position is important here. This one and position relative, these two are key. So first of all, if I look at the div, I gave it position relative. And what that is, it's relative to itself. But, actually, let's take this out. See what that does. Okay, so you need that to work in conjunction with position absolute. And what position absolute does is it positions Wally, in this case Wally, relative to the element right before it. So that's why I have Wally in a div, right? So it's relative to its closest ancestor, or the one right above it. This one's not above it, this one's right next to. This div and this div, this one is the one right above both of these, or each of these. Okay, so back to my style. And then you need a top and a left. Top left coordinate on your web page is 0, 0. So it's going to appear right here, 0, 0 relative to the ancestor, or the outer div. That's how I get them on top of each other. And I showed you how I hide one to get to the other. And that's pretty much it. It's a little trick that I just kind of figured out right now. Hope you find it useful. Enjoy.